YouTube, how's it going? The GOAT House is back. Today we're ranking every NFL head coach from worst to first, 32 to 1 here for the upcoming season. We recently got through every position and ranked the top 32 players in the NFL for the upcoming season. We're going to rank units. We're going to rank offenses, defenses, things like that. So we got you covered. And for these coaching rankings, it's just straight up who I think the best coaches are. It's not really predicting how teams will finish the season. That would be kind of team rankings. So it's just how I think these coaches are right now. So from 32 to 1. So really excited about this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, smash that like button. Subscribe. Be much appreciated there. Here's our Twitter. Always talking NFL updates, news, and keeping you updated on the channel as well. So check it out. Link down below. Be much appreciated. I got the first-time head coaches at the bottom. You know, we haven't seen them as a head coach yet, and this is just kind of in general how good these coaches are, in my opinion. So I ranked them at the bottom. I got David Culley at the end there. Just we really don't know a lot about David Culley, so it's tough to rank. Nick Sirianni. Can't base really anything at all off his press conference, but obviously people aren't thrilled with that just because of that. But I think he's got a solid play. You would think a solid system, a solid playbook for where he's coming from. Dan Campbell's growing on me a little bit. I got him at 30. I think a good motivator for the most part. I think the pieces he got around him is pretty important, but a pretty good motivator it seems like. Urban Meyer's at 29. I like the Urban Meyer hire a lot, mainly for because I feel like he's in a way the GM as well. So that is where the hire maybe is probably better than what other people would say, because he understands talent. Now, how he is as a head coach, I'd take a couple other new hires over him, but it's still an unknown at this point. Arthur Smith at 28. The way he ran the Tennessee Titans offense was fantastic. I think he can bring some of that similar ideas to the Falcons, and that could make Matt Ryan's job a lot easier there. They're going to try to run the ball a little more effectively. So very good offensive mind. Brandon Staley, I think, is a hell of a defensive coach, and he's only getting better. He kind of fits today's era as well. So I did like that hire, of course. And Robert Salah seems like a very good leader, and he's a very good defensive mind, well respected as well. It's kind of an incomplete grade in a way, obviously. But now we get into the coaches that we've seen. Cliff Kingsbury, I thought would be a little better than where he's at this point. Not saying he's bad, but there has been some interesting play calling choices in crucial situations. It seems like play calling's fine and, just early drives and early in the game. But when it comes to crunch time, it is a pretty tough offense to call, though, I suppose. It's a little different for the NFL. It is more of a college, spread offense. So it is tough going against, better defense, what he's used to, and calling that, and they could be better in some spots to help him out. They're still developing Kyler Murray, but play calling was a little questionable last year, and he is mainly just an offensive guy, so he comes at 25. Next group of guys, I got Matt Nagy at 24. Matt Nagy's defense, kinda. He hasn't really been able to choose his quarterback, but I say kinda because was Nick Foles kind of his choice last year, but now he's got Andy Dalton and Justin Fields. That's the big one there. We'll see who starts week 1. It sounds like Andy Dalton, but so now he kind of gets his quarterback in there, but play calling and decision making hasn't really been, the best, but he also had a tough task with just a very limited quarterback play. And it really, you were kind of forced to play small ball. You were forced to run the ball, to trust your running game a little more. So it was a little tough. But there was a lot of times, where I can say something positive about Matt Nagy. There's a lot of times where the Bears where it just felt like that team could have been down and could have gave up. They would just go drives and drives without converting a first down. The defense is upset with the offense, and the offense is down, and it looks like they're going to go on a losing streak to miss the playoffs, and they kind of get themselves out of the hole. So you do credit Matt Nagy in that category, but a guy that's mainly just focused on the offense, if that's the case, the play calling, decision making does need to be better from the ranked higher. Matt Rule, I like Matt Rule. Matt Rule's a very likable guy, and I like him as a coach. Second year, I think, has to be better. What I do like about Matt Rule is he's involved in both the offense and the defense. He's a very likable guy. Just seems like a really good motivator. That's just kind of my feeling from him. And he understands talent. That's for sure. That's the main thing. He recognizes talent. In terms of coaching, I didn't think the coaching was the best last year. I thought the Panthers could have done a lot better, and I think, sure, they could have had some better quarterback play. They could have been healthier. sure, legitimate excuses for sure. I wasn't really thrilled with the decision making from the coaches last year. It was a little underwhelming because I thought they'd be a little better with Matt Rule and Joe Brady in there, and I still think they will be better where our expectations were. But I think Matt Rule is kind of just hanging on, right? He gets the credit because of his involvement in both sides of the ball and because of his talent recognition abilities there. But the coaching on the field does need to be better this year. I'm confident. Mike McCarthy at 22. One where the coaching does need to be a little better, but I legitimate excuses, I suppose, but they're kind of his fault because he put together his staff. But I thought the offensive play calling wasn't too good early in the year, and that really picked up when I thought he got more involved and had more of a say. So I guess that's a positive for McCarthy. And the defensive side was atrocious. And it's the right move to make that change and end up bringing Dan Quinn in. I was actually surprised that they made that move already. With Jerry Jones being attached to guys, McCarthy kind of having his own crew that he had for quite a while back in the day in Green Bay, or some of those pieces. So it was a good move. I think McCarthy, he won a Super Bowl. He deep down, he's got to be a good coach, in my opinion. I think they started to pick things up, and they were pretty depleted in terms of the offensive line, the quarterback position as well. I'm probably going to be a little higher on Zach Taylor than most people. I'm not saying he's a great coach, but I actually saw improvement from Zach Taylor as an offensive coach last year. Joe Burrow goes down. They got a disaster at the offensive line. Joe Mixon was out of some games. Seen some effort, mainly AJ Green, guys like that, and lack of effort here and there. Nothing really great about that team, but they were game planning pretty damn well, especially on the offensive side of the ball, but really both sides of the ball. When they were out of the playoffs, we knew that they were a pretty bad team. They had some, even games they lost, they just lost straight up because of talent in the second half of the season. They had some really good game plans, I saw. Really, they just knew how to attack the opposing team's weakness or throw something that team just hasn't been able to game plan for or wasn't ready for. So I saw Zach Taylor grow, actually. So that's something I'm a little excited about going forward. Vic Fangio at 20. Defensive coach, obviously, a very, very bright defensive mind here. You do wish, you want a coach to be involved in everything, so that's kind of the knock. The Broncos haven't really been winning as much as we could want them to, so that's kind of a knock. At the same time, some, kind of poor quarterback play and then a lot of injuries as well. So I guess a legitimate excuse there, but got to get it going this year. Brian Flores steps in and has the Miami Dolphins really turning around there. I like his ability to motivate his team to game plan and to lead a defense too. It's very hard to run that defense. They are switching some things this year, which I actually like. But yeah, it's pretty tough to, you leave Bill Belichick and you try to, replicate that defense, and it's failed every single time. But I thought, in a way, Flores did a pretty damn good job and had the right pieces there. So I do like what he's doing. I was impressed with Joe Judge last year. It was kind of like the Giants were kind of the laughing stock of the NFL when they hired a special teams coach. But I like his involvement in pretty much everything. I think he's a good motivator. He understands the game. They had some really good game plans. The Giants were another team that when they won games or they were close in games, I thought it was because of the game plan. He understood when things need to change on offense, where this game they had to kind of be more of a game manager team. We can't, Daniel Jones has the ability to turn the ball over, but this game coming up right here, we just got to be a game manager offense and just take care of the football. He understood, and that was kind of the problem before. They wouldn't have made those changes, so he understood that things needed to change week by week. I like that. Still more to prove here. John Gruden at 17. It's tough to rank John Gruden down at 17 because he's a legendary NFL head coach, obviously very likable guy for me at least. Pretty good leader, motivator, we know that. But play calling, I think I could speak for everybody. I think we all believe that the play calling and decision making has been a little questionable, especially in the big moments of games, in the big games down the stretch of the season. I think specifically the red zone play calling has been pretty bad. So that's pretty tough there. So yeah, we definitely need to see him step up. We need to see the Raiders in general, the players, coaches put a full season together, because they were looking good at one point during last year, and they ended up being pretty disappointing. Next group of guys, I got Mike Zimmer at 16. The knock on Mike Zimmer is he's not really involved with the offense, but he does have kind of a say. At the same time, he kind of just like that old school stuff. Some of these older coaches, then they got to be willing to change a little bit. But the Vikings later last year really started to pass the ball a little more, so that helped. But if we're just basing things off defense, this is one of the best defensive coaches in all of football here. So I think you take Mike Zimmer away, I think that defense has problems. He's probably one of the best defensive play callers, and you see how much of a factor he is play by play, has historically dominant defenses on third down because of his decision-making on who to put in and what type of defensive coverage to run. So he's a legendary defensive mind. That's just really, why he can't be any higher is because that's really what he's got going for him there. I got Kevin Stefanski, actually came from the Vikings at 15. Still has more to prove. It happens too much. We see coaches dominate their first year, even win Coach of the Year or not, whatever, but he did. But I'm saying it just for guys, not just for guys who won Coach of the Year. And all of a sudden they get figured out, and all of a sudden they're not too good, and everyone's like, what happened? He won Coach of the Year because he got figured out. Teams were able to game plan. I don't think that's the case here. Stefanski ran kind of a West Coast offense, a lot of play action, pound the ball first, run the ball first, open up the pass. It's been around forever. So teams kind of knew how to game plan for it, but he kind of went outside the box. He kind of took his own philosophy to what he ran with the guy like Gary Kubiak on the Vikings and added to it, and that made it special. So he wasn't afraid to expand, really, and I love that. It did, you kind of thought, the Vikings had a pretty good offense when he was there, but it was so conservative. It was ended up getting predictable, and you kind of thought, is that going to come with Stefanski? But no, he brought he brought his game to his game, on top of his game, and added more, expanded, and that was huge. So I do like his ability to add to his offense, and it felt like there was for the first time ever, it felt like really good atmosphere with that team in Cleveland, which may be the toughest organization to get that from based on the past. So that's respectable. Mike VRABEL, I like his involvement in the team in general. He's not going to be crazy involved with the offense, but he seems like a team coach. I mean, all these guys do, but this is a top-notch motivator, in my opinion. They have very good game plans. It seems like every single week for their opponent, they know how to change it up. So I do like that. There was some questionable decisions with, I think, deciding to kick field goals last year. They had some, last couple of years, they've had some rough go at the field goal kicking. I did not really agree sometimes with their decisions there, but it was, I guess, a legitimate excuse out there. But that's kind of the one knock on him. Matt LaFleur at 13. Very good coach, has been better than expected. He actually coming from the Tennessee Titans a few years ago. Better than expected for sure. Very close to being ranked higher, but in big moments, in big games, there has been some questionable decision-making from him. And then there's also the question of, will he let Aaron Rodgers control more? Is that kind of a little bit of a battle going there? I think he's right now, he's kind of remembered by that field goal decision in the NFC Championship game. But he's had some of those moments come up. But he does have pretty good offensive game plans and pretty good play calling for the most part to get the Packers in that situation. So that's why he's ranked pretty high there. We'll see how he is in his third year. Next, we got Ron Rivera at 12. One of the best defensive minds in football. He's very good at getting his team ready, prepared, motivating his team as well. I think he just needed a change of scenery, really, with the Panthers going to the Washington football team. Just exactly what he needed. He's the right guy to take that special young defense to that next level, and he's doing that at the same time of just running his team in the right direction there. Pete Carroll at 11. Based on his career, if we're going career across the board, Pete Carroll's going to be ranked higher. I think he's fallen down a little bit. And it's kind of like it's a lot of these old school coaches. The coach has been around forever, even though he was in the college game for a bit. He's a little stubborn to change a little bit. You got to adapt to a different era a little bit. It just seems like they're insisting on the Seattle Seahawks being the same every single year, and that comes with play calling, a system. It comes with decision making in big situations. So I think something, and I think they're actually going to change some things. Look like they're going a little different system on offense this year. I like how he's involved in everything. A very likable guy for sure. Very good at getting his team prepared in big games. So I feel like the Seahawks are one of those teams that wins. They win those huge games always. So that's the good about Pete Carroll. It's just a different era. I hope and I think they actually could be changing some things there. But it seems like they want to keep the same team and kind of, they had Jamal Adams, but then let guys go. So that's a little bit of a knock as well. Sean McDermott hits the top 10, really responsible for turning this Bills team around, but also other coaches as well and adding talent for sure. I like his involvement with the team in general. He is him and Frazier, just that 1-2 punch on the defensive side of things is fantastic as well. But yeah, it seems like another great motivator, getting his team prepared, for the opponent, and they're not just playing the same way every week. They're not preparing the same way every week. It's for their opponent. Kyle Shanahan, tough one to rank because he's such a great offensive mind, a likable guy as well, and team's always prepared. And yeah, again, the play calling is fantastic, but until you get to that big game, the big moment, he always kind of has that slip up, that slip up moment, which kind of you can't really put him high. Can he win the big games? Can he figure that out? But there's been some games where, they just dominant. It's just, you can just see it's the system. You see it's the system, it's the play calling combined, and they got guys hurt. It's just what they're throwing at you. It's just all from this guy's mind. So you almost want to rank him higher for that, but got to finish those big games. Got to win those big games. Next group of guys, got Sean McVay at 8. Yeah, another great offensive mind. Kind of brought a new school look to the NFL a few years ago. Now he is a better quarterback. There has been, I think, red zone play calling. He could have been a little better. I think he's trying too hard not to be predictable. I can't really blame him for that because I'd rather try that hard to be not predictable and kind of just go. Sometimes when that happens, you just do what works, and they kind of go away with it. But I'd rather that be that than be crazy predictable at the same time. But yeah, he comes in at 8, but it also has to win the big games as well. Bruce Arians won the big game last year with help from Tom Brady and that talented roster. But Bruce Arians, yeah, Super Bowl winning coach and a great mind. You see why the Buccaneers needed him to come out of retirement. Frank Reich at 6. The knock on Frank Reich, he hasn't really won a big game, but this is a genius coach in my opinion. Genius mind, offensive play call. It's another one of those guys where it is the system. I also, some of these other guys haven't won the big game, but I also thought the Colts didn't really have the talent as some of those other teams, like the Bucs, like but I was mainly saying that with the Rams, McVay and Shanahan and the 49ers. The Colts haven't really had the overall talent those teams had, and he's winning some of these games just purely off the system and play calling. That game against the Bills in the AFC Championship, or not AFC Championship, AFC playoff game, wild card game. It was just a genius. And there was actually some people knocking some play calling, which was absurd to me in that game because it was just players not executing, receivers not getting the right spot, running the right routes. Rivers kind of just, even though Rivers was playing a lot better late in the year, just missing throws, running backs not hitting holes. I thought it was more the players, and the players played well, but not executing the bright moments. Reich set them up for that success. He outplayed the Bills in that game. I think, see how good that offensive line plays. I think it's just, in general, it is that Reich system, and now he's got a struggling Carson Wentz in there, so now we're going to see how good Frank Reich is here. It's just a big-time system. The system wins over there. And then you look at the defensive side of things, which he doesn't run the defense, but he is the head coach. He's in control and getting this team prepared and ready. And what did I love about that defense? Like, what was the best thing about that defense? They played harder than anybody. Everyone plays hard, but they were just so sound. Sound. They had the fundamentals. Sounds ridiculous. Down when the ball was on the ground. When there was a ball in someone's hands, the whole defense crowded around him. That was my favorite thing about the Colts defense last year. So credit goes to the head coach, getting them ready and getting them like that in practice, setting a standard. So I like Frank Reich a lot. You wish the record was better and you wish he won bigger games, but I think some of these other teams have had better talent. Sean Payton at 5. There's a huge positive in Sean Payton. It's almost the negative and the positive almost go together. The negative is, yeah, they've been a little underwhelming in the big games, even though they've played well in the playoffs and they've won playoff games. I mean, Super Bowl winning head coach as well. But recently, the last quite a few years here, they've kind of been a little bit of a letdown. As soon as they play, get in the playoffs and they kind of lose that big game that most expect him to win, if he were to get over those humps, he could be number one. At the same time, and the reason for that is also a knock. It's because it's kind of been the same team. They haven't really changed much, but that kind of goes into positive. It's been the same team, that Drew Brees team. Now it's going to be different. The same system, offense, really the same defense, a lot of the same players, literally the same everything, the same scheme, the same system, and they're still one of the most consistent winning. That's impossible to do almost. So that is the big positive for Sean Payton. Obviously he's a legendary coach as well, but it's going to be fun this year because it's a little bit different of a team here. They had to cut some guys on defense. I think it'll be a similar run defense there, but now a totally different type of quarterback in there. So it's going to be very fun to watch here, very interesting. Top 4, I got John Harbaugh at 4. Kind of in there with Sean Payton. You want to get him to get over that hump, but he's won Super Bowls, of course, but recently. But at the same time, the way they prepare and game plan for those big games, the Titans game is one example last year. Just beautiful, just perfect. So getting his team prepared. I like his involvement in the team in general. Obviously having championships, that helps him be up here as well. The one knock is, it feels like this, and I like, it's a positive at the same time. I like his ability to adjust things, for the better, and that really is Lamar Jackson. You get Lamar Jackson, you got to change some things. You got to go outside of that old school, John Harbaugh, that hardball game mentality, and he did, so you give him props for that. And that is the knock, though, because they're kind of stuck in that. Lamar Jackson does kind of it does feel like kind of has to carry, when he comes out of that game against the Browns, you see, and anybody's quarterback comes out, they kind of got a problem, but I think it's more of a positive, the ability to change for the better there. I got Mike Tomlin at 3, consistent winning coach and team, no matter what's going on at the Pittsburgh Steelers, an insane motivator, maybe one of the best or the best defensive mind in football as well. But just getting his team prepared, I think, just as good as anybody there, and just, again, consistently winning. That's why it's going to be interesting, because I don't really love the Steelers team on paper this year. We know they have some offensive line problems. Big Ben, second year after that injury, aging a little bit. Defense, they lost a couple guys. It still should be good because some pieces, but because Mike Tomlin mainly. But it's going to be a true test now because he's always just won. So it's going to be interesting. Andy Reid at 2. It's always done his win over the course of his career. I know why it ended with the Eagles is because he didn't really get the final job done, win that big game. But he's always won. Always had great teams, always a great offensive mind, play caller. His team obviously seems prepared, and the game plan seems to be perfect almost every single week. What I like about him is it's just no nonsense. When it comes to decision making in big moments and play calling in general, it just let's just do the thing that is going to work. Whether it's the third down, the fourth down, whatever it is, we're just going to go out there and we're not going to worry about disguising things. We're not going to worry about playing things safe. Really, we're just going to go out there and we're going to make that play. We're going to get the first down. We're going to score that touchdown. It just seems like he's all business in that category, and that's why the Chiefs. It's a big reason why the Chiefs are so good, and how he handled the Mahomes situation worked out so perfectly. So he definitely deserves credit. Bill Belichick is still number 1. He's the best coach in NFL history. This really isn't based off of everything in the past. I mean, that definitely comes into play here, but it's kind of more right now. But I still think he's the best coach involved with the team everywhere. Everywhere you can think of, he's involved with it. That plays a big part. He's very good at it as well. I really think the best defensive mind in football as well. I mean, he's the reason there's a lot of defensive coaches here getting jobs because he kind of created them as well. And teams always, those coaches and other coaches, not even his own, they try to replicate his defense, and they can't do it. Anyone that tries to do that Patriots that Belichick hybrid defense in a way, it almost always, really FLORES kind of pulled it off last year, even though it wasn't fully that. Other than that, it always fails. It's really tough to make it work because you have to find the most versatile players. And they also have to be, because sometimes when you just get the most versatile players, they're not the most talented players. But he kind of gets both. But I think it's mainly because of his development, the way he develops them as well, the way he coaches them. And you see all the time when players go from the Patriots, from that system to another team, they just don't look like the same guy at all. And that's just kind of the main reason for that there. Rough go last year, didn't have a lot to work with, and just went out and got better this offseason as well. Just tough not having Belichick at number 1. So those are my rankings. You can let me know your thoughts in the comments, your rankings. We're always talking on Twitter as well. There's a link for that, as well as other things there that you may need in the description and comments. All kinds of ranking videos, player rankings, predictions, a lot more. We have you covered with full NFL coverage here, of course. So smash the like button, subscribe. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.